And that's why I think the Thresh and Ezreal bans are so perfect here for Damwon-Kia to say, nope, you're going to have to actually play something completely different. You're not going to be able to just jinx it later on in the game. You're not going to be able to play that Ezreal. You know, alternatively, could have maybe even seen like a Xayah here instead of the Kalista for Live Sandbox. Another option if you wanted to go into that late game scaling and kind of front to back after the engages come through. But I am very worried once again for Live Sandbox that there's a little bit of a disconnect between what the top side of the map is going to be trying to do later on versus how they're going to try to set up for team fights. Because Damwon-Kia's composition is very straightforward in how it operates. And I think it's a lot easier to execute once we do get to those later stages of the game. But we'll see how this is played out from Prince, because if he can actually play it very passively and wait for those engages to come through, he's going to be in a good spot to do massive damage later on. It's a lot of ifs, though. And I really like Damwon-Kia's comp here. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Yasuo Diana, it works well with what they've put together.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think that Damwon are showing a couple of different modes here in this series against Live Sandbox. Obviously showing that they're taking this match very seriously, right? They could have easily just tried to say, okay, we don't want to show that much, but they absolutely want to secure the win. They want to get into Worlds tonight, and they might be able to do it. We'll see how it goes here, jumping into game number 2. Same sides. After Live Sandbox, after the loss, they chose the red side, which is pretty interesting. Their counter pick, in air quotes, of course, was Kalista.
I would have really liked, I mean, obviously this was banned and it was smart for Damwon-Kia, but if you switch the Kalista to an Ezreal, I look at Live Sandbox comp and I go, ooh, this is terrifying, like how much damage it can do in the late game. You switch it to a Jinx, and I'm like, well, you know, it's going to be really hard with Jinx Leona, but at least you have that later game, and that's why I was kind of mentioning the Xayah, for example, as another alternative. But the Kalista, we'll see. I think that's really going to be make or break for Live Sandbox later on.
Yeah.
The range issue is not as big of a deal because Damwon-Kia is going to be heading towards you in those team fights. You're not going to be fighting to get close.
I think that's the idea at the end of the day. It's like your range won't affect you that much, and you have abilities to kind of like bounce around. And I feel like Fate's Call is really good into this comp in terms of like getting the Leona into a better spot, but also like even trying to protect yourself. It allows you a lot of flexibility with that, and you can play with the Kalista pretty well around a lot of the walls that are on the side of Damwon as well, just in terms of like individual matchups like the Yasuo, the Braum, and stuff like that. As everybody's trying to get onto the emote game now, but Peanut is still number 1.
Oh yeah, he's always going to be number 1 in our hearts too, no matter what. Even if he stops emoting, I'll be like, still number 1 emoter. But he won't stop.
As long as they allow him to.
Yeah.
I think he will continue to.
He'll emote from Casper Jail. Well, the early part of this matchup, obviously, Ryze is going to be very annoying to deal with, as we saw already in the mid lane. In this matchup on the bottom side, can go either way, but Kalista's going to have a lot of pushing power as she does in most matchups.
Yeah. This is potentially the other
this is the other power of it, yeah.
Yeah, the Kalista you get in here for this early kind of power potential. You get a nice amount of priority, and you can maybe set up plays with that. Obviously, try to control the map early before Damwon's comp gets out of control.
Yeah, and you know, if there's a big engage from Damwon-Kia on the bottom side of the map, as this bot duo has done oftentimes, and you end up winning that, you can really get a nice lead. I don't think that's what they're banking on, but hey, it has happened a lot. So I'd like to see Ghost of Barrel just play on the defensive for a little while here before we head towards anything like that. Top Lee Sin here versus the Jace means there's a lot of kill potential.
Yep, going for it. This is what Trundle can do with this pillar as the flash comes in, and the press the attack is still not going to be enough. Khan will just be able to hop onto the minion wave. Good timing on that one. Effort level 2. He's mid lane. You don't expect this. He's level 3 on the rise, not able to actually root him down. As now we have a teleport coming in here, trying to turn this one around. Lots of stuff happening as the Scuttle Crab fight is here as well. Khan teleports in, tries to help for the Scuttle Crab.
He's going to lose so
work
much.
out. And he's not going to get the Scuttle Crab. He's not going to get the cannon either. And we're still fighting in the mid lane.
Yeah, he loses out on Scuttle, he loses out on the Canyon minion, and some other minions there on the top side of the map. Loses teleport. Summit's just going to walk back to lane and say, well, I've got teleport advantage now. Look where my wave is pushed. You're going to have to clear that. I'm going to be able to catch those. They're going to be able to look for double Scuttle here as well.
Yeah.
This is such a huge lead for Live Sandbox, using their comp so well. And
Oh, they want
more?
They don't care about the scuttle. They want some kills here.
Summit's here.
Summit, yep, he gets there right on time. An effort may go down, but it's still a 2-for-1. Huge favor here as Summit is going to get fed big time in this game.
Oh, for sure. Then he can just head right back top. Now, he will lose a few minions here, but I think he's very happy with how this teleport advantage for him at the end of the day works out. Pretty amazing start here. And actually, it's going to be Fate who catches this wave to make sure the gold is shored up here. I actually really like this call because you're not going to be able to make a play, with that teleport anytime soon. Considering how much value you got out of Summits, you might as well just use this to swap lanes for just a second here.
Yeah. And look at this. We got more action. We got now Khan from the top lane rotating down. He's going to get on top of Summit here, knocking back the Yasuo as the Q is going to miss. He's not going to hit it. And that is massive, but it doesn't matter because Showmaker is going to get the kill anyway, not respecting the damage out of the Yasuo. And shoring up some of the mistakes here is Showmaker. Once again, some things never change.
Some things never change, and you know what? That's going to be a really nice amount of gold going over. Also, removing this Jace off of the map forces the lane swap back for Fate. So a lot of tempo gained here for Khan, who so desperately needs it. Both top laners actually losing out on a ton of farm because of this, so neither going to be as impactful in the mid game as they should be because they're so far behind, actually 10 CS behind their other solo lane counterparts. As Barrel's just going to hold this wave for Ghost to get back and catch it, but we'll watch this one more time, as this is just a really nice collapse, and this is the teleport advantage that I was talking about just moments before that Summit has. Knows he's heading back towards top, but they see an opportunity here, and this is a fight that you want to take as Damwon because you don't want to get double scuttled, but you don't have the power at this stage to actually engage when you know that you're already outnumbered and Summit is coming, and getting that trade back kill is honestly like the best you could have ever asked for in that situation, as we'll watch this from the first-person view. Maybe we won't.
Actually, we won't. And this might not amount to much because Showmaker's not even 6, so I'm glad we got to see that teleport. But yeah, there's a lot of action right now. Everybody's fighting on the map, and I mean, I don't even know if Damwon really necessarily should be going for this, especially against the Trundle, who is very ready to go for anything here. Khan hits level 6 right on time, but unfortunately, Canyon is going to leave him to die, and they hand that kill over to Summit yet again. So third kill at 6.5 minutes for Summit.
I mean, last game, the early game went well for Live Sandbox, and their comp needed it too. This is even better of a start here. Let's see if they can keep up the momentum, as that's not a great trade for Prince. But the reason why that top gank is successful is because of the wave state and because Kroko had already previously traded flashes with Khan, so he doesn't have any out there. He doesn't have any escape opportunity, so it's a really easy gank. Look at all the control wards on the top side of the map right now for Live Sandbox. They really want to control that part of the map. As I pause, Barrel tosses a skill out here, and I'm worried.
He got all the jellies.
Yeah.
He's happy.
Snack on those. Yes, I'm not sure which replay this is going to be. We're going to watch this one again, as we were denied. Knock-up hits here, and the last turret shot isn't enough because he actually doesn't aggro.
왜 그랬어? 다행이다.
I think he was scared by Braum jumping on him from behind. He's like, oh god, who is that?
Yeah, who's startled? As this is just Khan. Unfortunately, he is up in the lane trying to catch that farm and gets punished super hard.
Yeah, there's just so much happening in this game. It's like, sometimes it's hard, in the LCK, sometimes we have like very clear game states, and it's like, okay, at this point, we should group and try to fight over this objective. But sometimes it gets really crazy.
And if we do kind of like zoom out here for a moment and look at where the money went, Trundle's lost a lot of farm with all the amount of resources he's spent to help out lanes. But that's okay, because Trundle is still going to function pretty well even when he isn't fed. He's not like a Diana.
A killer.
Yeah, he's not like Diana that needs the money real bad. I'll pause here for a moment because effort's way up there. As
you just don't get to make any analytical points in this game. Sorry, Wolf.
Sorry,
you want to be second play-by-play in this one, Leshy?
Here he comes!
They're doing the damages. Yep, and they actually will. That's a massive shock blast. And Shelly's getting in there. Okay, doesn't matter. Live Sandbox are still like, no, we have a Jace and a Dream at this point, so we're not going to fight this.
Yeah, you don't want you have a nice lead here, and you don't have positional advantage there, so you don't want to throw that lead away by trying to flip on a Herald, as a lot of LCK teams like to do. but not these two. That's why they're at the top of the standings. Summit up here just going to get an extra plate and back off. But going back to the original statement, like, the money is on the Jace, okay? He's got a ton of gold here. He's 3-1-0, and he's in a place where he's going to be able to have a huge impact in some of these mid-game fights. The Drake fights in particular, he's going to be able to do a lot of poking. He will be able to side lane against Khan very easily, as we've already seen here, even forcing a response from Canyon. So these are huge advantages you have. Fate also, with 3 assists here, he's going to be scaling up pretty nicely. He's going to be on par to where he wants to be. So this is a really nice start for Liv Sandbox, but is it enough of a lead to where you feel great? Not just yet. They need to be able to take this advantage and utilize it and not overextend as we saw last game. It's a really similar scenario. I'd argue the lead is better here this time, but still you have to make sure that with this advantage you don't overextend and you still get those tempo advantages that we saw last game. Because right now they also don't have that Drake advantage just yet.
Canyon's still holding on to that Rift Heralds. Curious to see where he's going to drop that one, as he is in between a Trundle and a Rise. And he's actually just going to back off of that. Not going to go for it just yet. Still has a lot of time on the Rift Herald, so no need to force it here. He can always just farm out his jungle. He wants to try to reset those camps as fast as possible. Get all that farm.
Great for Ghost to get an extra plate here on the bottom side of the map as well. Just a lot of gold here to be taken for Damwon. Rift Herald is a tricky call to make right now where you want to put that, because the top side of the map it's just not a good chance unless you get a kill here, which you are going to struggle to do. The middle of the map, you know, for the Yasuo would be great, but also risky, and the bottom side, just so far away to try to force that value that's really awkward here, and he's going to have to make a choice eventually. As Khan,
it was a bait all along. The Diana's here, but the damage is there as well. Summit able to dunk him before he does go down. Trades 1-for-1 in a dire scenario.
That's how fed you are at this point as Summit. You're just like, well, 2v1, so what? I still trade. So it's not good for you. And Khan has to flash, so it's not even the Summoner's spell advantage there on the top side of the map. And because of that commitment of 2 players to the top side of the map and the trade, they get Drake Prio, and they're going to be able to take this into a bigger advantage. So this ends up being very nice for Liv Sandbox. Again, not able to get anything too huge on the map, but the fact that Jace is this fed is going to become very relevant in some of our first few straight-up 5v5 fights. And that's where you're really going to feel that edge. And we don't have the same sort of counterpart item spike yet for Damwon. Like, there's, we don't have the first item for the Yasuo just yet. We don't have, so we'll watch this one more time. Notice that he flashes to get the kick into where Canyon is, and yet someone is still able to
이
burst him
정도면
down.
된 것 같은데?
He's like, this is
안
this is
되는 것
actually
같은데?
pretty good if we get this.
Good enough.
But yeah, we don't have Diana online just yet, so for Damwon taking these first few fights is still going to be difficult. So Rift Herald just gets a few plates.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these 5v5s go. Obviously, there's a lot of walls on the side of Damwon, but they're on pretty decent cooldowns, so it's not like you can spam them and deny the Jace. Like, this Jace is going to be a factor in this game, regardless of if Damwon would like that or not. Obviously not. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, Summit was playing a very strong split pushing game until his team made the call to essentially go 5 men into a Corridor, into a Rise, Aphelios, Diana. But that's a different story. But
It is important though, because that is what happened last time, and that's
Yeah.
what we keep going back to is, okay, you have this lead, now you have to stick to landing. And it's not a big enough lead to where, I mean, even talking about the landing is realistic yet, because this is definitely a game that Damwon is only a little bit behind at this stage and can definitely bounce back. In fact, have a gold lead after that Rift Herald drops. Once again, Canyon is hovering the top side of the map, and if you start to weaken Summit here quite significantly, it's one way you could get back into it, but he's respecting so much right now.
Khan in position, looking for the kick into the wall. They have it. Is the damage enough? Absolutely. The Moonfall just almost looks like it crits him down there, but the damage is just enough, basically, to get the kill.
He respects it, waits until the minions are there where you can clear them instantly and feels like that's enough, but it's not. The damage is still there. You could see he was really waiting. He's like, I'm going to wait till the mains crash. I'm going to clear those instantly. I should be fine here.
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes even that amount of respect is not enough against the amount of damage that his comp has. And he's flashless, remember, from that last engage.
And all of a sudden, you know, this Jace, he's still extremely fed, don't get me wrong. But, like, you look at the other side, and Yasuo, he's got more CS, and he has a kill, and he has 3 plates in the mid lane. Like, Showmaker is a big boy right now. And if you just keep going for this 2v1 up on the top side with the amount of damage you have with the skirmish comp, you can just keep dunking him. And if Liv Sandbox are not going to help Summit in this game like they helped out a ton in game 1, then we might be seeing a dead Jace more often.
The scary thing about this, too, is, you know, we gave him a lot of credit, or I did, saying he's respecting, you know, he's waiting for the minion wave, he's going to clear it really quickly and should be fine, and Fate teleports in. But I think if you're Fate in this case and you're really expecting this, you probably have to commit a little bit more. Like, we saw Krako also heading over, but he was very late. So if you have all the members of Liv Sandbox here win Canyon camps this, then you actually trade it back. You might even get a 2-for-0 and end up being in a really, really nice spot. But if you're a little bit late to the party, then yeah, he dies again. And this is a waning lead, in fact, for Liv Sandbox. Like, at this stage, W10D3ㅅLCK only a Drake behind, gold lead here. Comp easier to execute later on. Diana's starting to come online. Like, it's a very close game.
Yeah, and I feel like Liv Sandbox, as you mentioned, you know, the response to the gank on the top side, but just in a macro sense, like how much free farm and turrets and plates is Showmaker going to get in this game? As he's now teleporting in, that's a really nice stopwatch to save Fate, but look at the damage coming out for that piercing arrow, Jesus! As now everybody's having to back away. Prince is not part of the fight anymore. And yeah, you see some of the utility from the Fate's Call and some of the idea from this Kalista, but the second he gets poked out, it's like, now you don't even get this one objective that you were trying to get here.
The Shock Blast hits no one. It hits no one, and last game too, Summit was a little bit lackluster with those skill shots. This time around, he's extremely fed, but if those don't hit, it just doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't matter at all that you have this Jace's argument that we've been pushing forward and discussing, like, how much of a factor he's going to be. Like, he's only been really deadly to Khan. He hasn't been able to make an impact at all whatsoever.
Oh, I don't know about this, Khan. Trying to go for the kill, though. It was pretty close. The Q not going to work. Not sure if he was not having vision there or if he was trying to predict the flash, but the Q does go wildly wide. Doesn't matter. Actually trades back really nicely, even in the face of Krako. So Khan having a better understanding of his limits than even I did.
Yeah. Doesn't have to flash or anything like that for this scenario, so it's going to be totally fine. Teleport going to come through here for Summit. And he will be forced back. Realm Warp this time. This time they're committing.
He has, well, okay. I mean, you know, there's 4 people. And you see the response down here on the bottom side. No knock-up, but it's still a Yasuo and a Diana on top of a Kalista with no flash. So good luck with that.
Yeah. She had cleanse, but I guess if the Q doesn't hit, you don't really have to worry about it. At the end of the day, it's going to be not only a kill on the Kalista, but also mid-turret here. W10D3ㅅLCK getting so much more value out of the map. And this Jace pick has really just ended up being more of a liability in both of these games than it has been strong. And I mentioned it in game 1, I didn't think it worked well with the comp. I think the same issues will arise later on here. That goes wide.
Yeah, and they're sticking around into this turret. That is not the play. The Moonfall, I mean, this is what you're running straight into. It's Diana Yasuo from ahead, as the damage is just way too much, and Liv Sandbox are taking fights that they shouldn't, and Dom1, this is their comfort zone. This is where they live. Liv Sandbox are like, please come at us, and Dom1 are like, thank you very much for your inhibitor.
Yeah, I mean, Summit over here, he has to flash.
He's, okay, this is gonna be a pretty close one. The kick comes in, and the Q misses again! Oh, man. Q hits, he gets the kill. Q misses, he dies.
It's a gimme, you know, I guess for Summit here, he's going to be able to get an extra kill, and that's actually quite significant because that is the only thing that Liv Sandbox can take on the map is some farm on the top side. If he dies there, they get nothing. So it is quite important that that does miss and he does end up getting the kill. As watching this scenario here unfold on the bottom side is just extreme greed from Prince. He's like, well, I've got to get farm here. I want to get fed because we're losing control of a lot of other parts on the map, but where do you think they are if they're not top saving Khan? Guess what? Yeah. They're on the bottom side. And like, you're a Kalista. Your late game damage and your late game items are not going to be as important. The risk isn't worth it because it costs them the turret And then when they try to make this play here, Effort misses the solar flare, and even if it hits, this is the wombo combo you don't want to be walking towards, right? This is the reason they picked the comp, as we watch Summit in first-person view. See what he says.
아, 죽을 것 같은데?
I'm gonna die. And then he says, oh,
Nice,
when
huh?
the Q misses. Nice.
It's definitely a feels good moment.
But does it feel good enough?
Yeah,
Question.
I mean, it feels good, and it's also like, well, I should have died, right? And okay, some big moves here from Live Sandbox. They're like, well, we've got a rise, let's use it. But see on the opposite side of the map, Damwon, like I said, they're one of the teams here in the LCK that they can play in Fiestas very well.
They have such fast clear, too. Like, they're not losing this race. In fact, they're winning it. Like, thanks for the Realm Warp cooldown also.
This is one thing, Damwon, they're so confident when they're ahead. They're just like, yeah, I mean, sure, split push. Do we care? Absolutely not. What?
Yeah, because you still have to win a team fight to make this worth it if you don't get an inhibitor, right? Like, you get an inhibitor turret last game. This time they don't even get that. But even if you get the inhibitor turret, it's like a little bit of gold going over to a composition that, once again, isn't scaling extremely well. The Rise is going to be happy for it. But I want to see a 5v5 team fight where someone hits Shock Blast. You know, I want to see a 5v5 team fight where they utilize this composition to its full potential. Yeah. Maybe use that Fate's Call defensively, like you were talking about. Khan is playing with fire this game.
Yeah. I just feel like this entire series, it hasn't ever really gotten to that point, right? Like, game one turned so quickly after the very deep dive into the enemy jungle from Live Sandbox that we never really got a straight-up 5v5. And then now here in this game, it's anything but that, right? Everybody's just kind of running around the map looking for picks, and that's perfect for the skirmish comp of DK.
Yeah, Live Sandbox just unfortunately look a little bit lost here, and you know, this match is so important for both teams, arguably more important for Damwon, but Croco standing on a ward here. I mean, look for your chance, I suppose. Live Sandbox, remember what happened last time, was much worse off. They will be able to stop the Baron, but they need to show a lot of respect to Damwon's comp when they're split up like this. So Shock Blast will hit this time, but not a critical moment for it to.
Good Canyon, he's like, see enemy champion, dive on enemy champion at this point.
If he gets 3 of them, that's game. Like, they follow up with the Yasuo ult and they win the game. So I don't mind him using that cooldown for that. If he sees a bigger opportunity, like it's extremely low risk for I could just win the game. And that's where we're at in this game, unfortunately, for Live Sandbox. Drake spawning in 10. They have full control over the bottom side of the map. Even Khan is freely laning and freely farming, which he has not been able to do very much of in the second game. But now the pressure is on Live Sandbox here as they're grouped on Baron, but can't start it. Even with the Callista, they're so far behind.
You have decent turn, but you don't have the damage. It's too early on in the game. You can't threaten Baron, really. And you see Damwon, they're going to come in here just to make sure.
Yeah, and that's just going to be Damwon come over and go, okay, so you didn't do the Baron. We also had a solo take on the Drake. So that's going to be 2 Drakes now. Puts him on a slight advantage. Drake's not too impactful in this game, actually, since it is Ocean.
I love how Damwon are not scared of Baron at all.
No.
One Shock Blast does a bit of damage to Canyon, but he's going to be okay. Now you got the wall coming in. Nice solar flare on that too, but can anyone else get in there? The answer is no. As Fate's Call is used, and now Prince is all alone here. He has to flash over, and Effort is going to be the sacrifice instead. Barrel gets low, but the team doesn't care. Fate's got an interesting angle. He's going to force Showmaker to flash the wall. Now he's looking at Summit in front of him, and Damwon will move over. But at the end of the day, it's a 1-for-1 trade of supports, and Damwon get another big advantage here with the objective of the Baron.
Yeah, they have the Baron, which is once again really similar situation to the last game where any semblance of map control you had, any vision control or side lane pressure is just now kind of overruled by the fact that Baron buff is going to give you 3 pushing lanes. And unfortunately with that fight for Live Sandbox, the Shock Blasts aren't big because they're partially blocked by Barrel and then dodged otherwise. Like, this is another block from Barrel. He's standing there blocking it, as you pointed out, in the fight. And desperation here from Effort because he has the Fate's Call, but there's just so much engage here that even with Fate's Call, you still die. And Fate's angle is amazing. If you can actually hit a lot of poke, then suddenly you actually win this fight on 2 fronts, but instead he has to just kind of limp with his tail between his legs and get out of there. There's just no real recourse. There's no follow-through. once Effort is dead, there's just not enough peel. And look at the map, already starting to turn blue here.
Yeah, this is Dom1 very far ahead now in this game, looking to extend that lead with the Baron. And this is something that we felt a lot in the past with Dom1 ahead in a lot of games against pretty much anybody. It feels inevitable, right? And getting a little bit of those feels here. Obviously, there's still a Jace that's got some items. There's still a Pillar. There's still a Trundle. But, you know, can the Rise ever really, can they actually ever engage onto anybody?
No, that's
the question. They have to absorb energy, and so far that hasn't been going well.
The thing is, Dom1 doesn't actually have to force engages anymore because they have this control. So you don't have to, you know, look to just kind of all in into these team fights anymore. If Dom1 were behind, it would be somewhat concerning when you consider the comps because of the defensive options Live Sandbox have. But now they could just use Baron buff to win the game. And if you are killing minions, you're at risk now. You got to be back off. And this is what the issues that I was kind of highlighting in the draft were for Live Sandbox, is that in this later on situation in the game, like how are you the ones who get to close the gap on this team? How are you the ones who get to be the initiators? You can win a fight if Dom1 Kia mess up their engage into you, but if you're behind, how do you ever start that? Because if Dom1 Kia always has defender's advantage in every fight you try to take, you won't be taking very many. And this is what's concerning. Plus the fact that, you know, as Prince here, your relevancy in this game is required to, I mean, it's really sparked by how close Dom1 Kia's players are to you, and when they're just using Baron buff to siege you up, what do? You're just very limited. So when you consider the walls, the blocks that they have for the shock blast that you've been highlighting, is just, it's a bad comp in this situation. And I didn't really like the draft at the beginning, but when you're this far behind, I mean, there's not a whole lot of points in the pros column, unfortunately, at this state of the game. It's all cons.
Yeah,
even the 0-4 and 4, at least at the top, it's all cons.
Yeah. These cons having a bit of an interesting one.
He absorbed a lot of the damage.
Yeah.
He absorbed a lot. Weak side, Lee Sin Khan.
Khan's at the point in his career where he's done a lot. He's done a lot of aggressive carrying, and sometimes, you know, old man Khan, he's like, I'm okay. I'm just gonna ride the bus, and that's fine. There's no point in that. Sometimes you got to know how to ride the bus well.
And that's
very important for solo queue.
Sometimes when Khan's on the bus, as Dom1 Kia, you drive real well. And that's what, whenever there were, you know, those extensions to the top side of the map, Dom1 Kia saved him. They scooped up those kills. They punished Summit, who had a great start, then ended up finding himself 4-3 after an amazing lead that never led to anything because he wasn't able to get, besides that bottom side teleport, get a whole lot done. As Holy blind here at Dom1 Kia, but they have this shield from Barrel.
Yeah, they've been lacking some vision at certain points in a couple of these games. Effort generally gets a lot of help from his team. He's also fantastic in terms of vision score all the time. Not like Barrel's too far behind him in terms of that stat, but so far doing a good job of holding on to this vision around this Drake, and they're just going to go all in on the Drake. They say, let's go for it, as Solar Flare is good onto Canyon, but he's still able to get towards the pit. Here comes the teleport coming on in, and that is going to be the easy smite. Croco way early, and a massive engage, and there it is! The Wombo combo that we wanted to see. Prince survives for now, but it doesn't matter. They hit their buttons together, and that's what you do with Diana Yasuo. 4 of them group up for it. It was just a little bit too much.
And, I mean, for Live Sandbox, a lot of you might be saying, well, why do you fight for that Drake? It's not even great for your comp, but what do you fight for at all as Live Sandbox? You're trying to group up and look for a 5v5 where they have to come to you, and the combo is good. That's why earlier I was saying I don't blame Canyon for using that rocket belt in these situations, because if you get the 3-man and Showmaker presses R, the game ends, and thus it will. Dom1 Kia pushing down towards a Nexus, looking to secure the first spot in Worlds here for the LCK for 2021.
Absolutely. We'll see if they can, actually in the game here, doesn't look like it. A couple of inhibitors will go down. And knowing Dom1, you know, they've done this in the past where they're just like, how about we just engage again? But
I mean, they might.
They have their ultimates again, so
True.
there is an option.
I mean, Canyon is so close to that Moonfall. It's almost up.
It's a decent solar flare, but again, it only hits barrel and slows everybody else. Canyon, though, is low, but it doesn't seem to matter because there you go! Canyon with 0 health, he does it again! Finds 4, and there's the ace, and it is clean from Dom1. This is a statement as Dom1 come in and smack Live Sandbox to the ground and secure Worlds as the first team from Korea.
Absolutely dominant performance here in this best of 3. The matchup we were most hyped for, the one that we were all calling out. You gotta watch Dom1 Kia versus Live Sandbox. Ends up being a complete and utter stomp. As Khan gets to go gold and his fist raised high towards the sky. He may yet have another World Championship opportunity here as they will go to Worlds. You can see that qualification does pop.